Hello and welcome to Eye on Africa. I'm Rochelle Ferguson-Biahi. These are the top stories on the continent. Liberia's former president, Johnson Sirleaf, is in Rwanda to receive the Mo Ibrahim Prize for Achievement in African Leadership. France 24 has been speaking to her. As France marks 170 years since it abolished slavery, we explore the Vodun religion, which helps believers revisit memories of the painful period so as not to forget their history. And if you're in and around Paris on May the 6th, why not attend the Fresh Women's Festival? The event's organised by Dolores, Bakèla and Adiaratou, Diarrassouba. It's a celebration of women on the day. There'll be workshops, debates, concerts and DJ shows. But first, Liberia's former president, Johnson Sirleaf, is in Rwanda this Friday to receive the Mo Ibrahim Prize for Achievement in African Leadership. She was officially handed the honour at an event in the capital, Kigali. The award's designed to improve the quality of African political leadership. The former president has been speaking to France 24 about democracy in Africa.
I also think that any democracy has to also take into account the culture, the tradition, the specificity of every country if you want it to succeed. And so why democracy prevails, and I think democracy also has a positive correlation with development. But I also say democracy is not one size fits all. Democracy must also take into account the context of the local environment.
In Madagascar, anti-government protests entered a sixth day this Friday, with demonstrators once again calling on the president to resign. On Saturday, a massive rally is planned. Thousands of people from across the country are expected to gather in the capital. France 24's Gaël Bourguier reports from Antananarivo.
They call themselves MPs for Change. For almost a week, they've been gathering at the town hall every morning to show their anger. Protesters are calling for the president to step down. They accuse him of being corrupt and of oppressing them. A massive rally is planned for Saturday, with protesters from all over the country expected to attend. One opposition MP, who's also a very popular singer in Madagascar, will perform the rally. Protests could get even larger on Monday, with MPs threatening to go block administration buildings in the city centre.
We invite civil service workers to come here on Monday. And we warn them, if they don't send their workers here, we will go and look for them ourselves in each ministry.
For now, no solution has been found, despite attempts of reconciliation from an African Union representative. If trade unions follow the movement, protests could end up becoming a general strike.
Next, 170 years ago today, France abolished slavery in its French colonies. Now, during slavery, millions of people were forcefully transported from Africa to America and the West Indies. Well, in West Africa, Benin is the cradle of the Vodun religion, a spiritual practice which allows believers to reconnect with their past. Emmanuel Soji and Emmanuel Londe report.
Thousands of enslaved men and women endured a painstaking walk on this route to the beach in Ouida in southern Benin.
Before crossing the ocean, the captives were forced to walk 7 times around a tree, symbolized today by this monument. The idea was to disorientate them, so they would be more docile.
Lesser known is the role of the Vodun religion and believers who broke free of their chains thanks to a spiritual deity of resistance to slavery, known as Orisha, Chango and Evieso in local languages.
A member of the group managed to break the chains of slave traders who were going from village to village to capture people.
Since his discovery on the story of the chains, a researcher of Benin's cultural history and follower of the spiritual practice has persuaded elders to share how they recorded slave history.
We told them that by hiding our heritage, we're depriving Afro-descendants of information about their past. They need these stories
to know who they are.
The leader of the animist cults of the Weme Valley, east of Benin, is one of a few elders who's agreed to share some of the secrets. The collective past is printed on the body of believers in order to be remembered, he says.
The first 3 rows of scars correspond to the names of worshippers and cult leaders deported by slave owners.
Thanks to the information gathered from Vodun believers, researchers have been able to identify more than 6,000 deported slaves. Their findings have been published so descendants can trace their past.
When Afro-descendants search the database, they can easily find their place of origin. That's if the file contains the names of their ancestors.
Recording the history of elders in Benin and neighbouring Togo and Nigeria is urgent work. The youngest followers of Vodun no longer carry traditional scars on their bodies, and as the elders pass away, so does a part of history.
Now, if you're in or near Paris on May the 6th, why not head down to the Fresh Women's Festival? Dolores, Bakèla and Adiaratou Diarrassouba organise the festival, which is about celebrating and raising the profile of women of colour. Well, at the event, there'll be bookshops, discussions, concerts and DJ shows, all around themes like identity, gender, sexuality and feminism. Earlier, the organisers joined me here in the studio.
We've thought about the festival since we started the platform, actually, because we're looking at the media since we're journalists, and the question of representation was really important to us. And we found out that the voices of women, especially of color, as you said, were not really heard a lot in France, and wanted to gather them and other women to tackle issues that would be just, as you said, identity, gender, and try to move forward in reflection of the issues that we have here in France.
Okay, so the aim on the day is about raising profiles for women of colour, Dolores?
Yes, definitely, but women of colour are not disconnected to the other people in the society, so it's very important that all together we have this very important conversation about our own issues and how they like going across the society. It's very important to us to do it like in a space, a safe space, where these voices can be heard without being judged. So that's what we wanted to do with the Fresh Women's Festival.
On the day, there are going to be lots of women there, as you said, a lot of high-profile women. There's one particular ambassador that you chose. Tell us a bit more about her.
Yes, so the ambassador of the first edition of this festival, her name is Leila Si. She's a director. She works in the hip-hop industry in France. She's like a really prominent figure in France for now 20 years. She's also an activist, so she encouraged young people to go vote. She's a mother, she's 40, and she's dynamic, and she's on a lot of projects, and even with the younger generation of rappers here, she has a lot to transmit to the next generation. So it was really important to us to have her on board.
Dolores, anybody else that we should be looking out for on the day?
Yes, definitely. We are very lucky as well to have to host the first show ever in France of Faka, with a South African duet, and they are challenging the representation about what it's like to be black, to be queer as well. So they are doing this very, very dynamic and energizing music called and we are very happy that they trust us to host this first show in France, and the show would be it's going to be amazing.
So we said it in our intro, there are going to be lots of workshops there on the day. Just give us a taste of the kind of workshop you'll be offering to people who head down to the festival.
The workshops will be tackling issues of representation through literature, for instance, sexuality as well, how to reappropriate intimacy, because it's really difficult with all the double discourse that you have in society. Being a female, you can be hypersexualized, and at the same time, you can be just an intellectual and you don't have any sexual life as well. So it's a way to discuss that. And we'll be also having a workshop on journalism, fact-checking, and tell about the experiences of 2 amazing journalists that we have here, Kumba Khan and as well Hortense Asaga.
Well, there you have it, the Fresh Women's Festival scheduled for the 6th of May. You're up to date. That's all from your Eye on Africa team. Coming up next, more international headlines. Stay tuned. You're watching France 24.